So let's continue working on the brands. And at some point, we tried everything yesterday, and we're still getting a bunch of data that we absolutely don't want. And let's test that. So here's brands test. Get me this single brand, null. So obviously all the properties were changed. I'm gonna try to find the correct data test meals. Okay. So here's the meal ID, Lebanese. It has ingredients, and I don't have any brands in anywhere. Okay, so that's the meal ID. So test brands. Here's the meal ID. Oh, it is 34 everywhere. Good. Then let's have one of the ingredients. This one is corrupted, I see. I'm gonna target this first coriander, AC. Okay, so now this guy does not have any brands. Let's push some brands into it. So brand A, brand B, and brand C. Come on, C. That's good. Now that I have 3 brands added, let's say I want to target one of these brands and want to display it. Let's say the middle one. So I'm going to add the ID in get one brand. And when I try to get this brand, I get a bunch of data that I don't need. I only need this one. Receiving this object and filtering this object in Express or in my router isn't going to be efficient. Maybe there are 100 brands. So why would you like to do this job in the server? The database should just send me this single object. So we're going to build an aggregation pipeline and add steps into it to filter out everything that we want to get this exact brand name and ID. Let's do that. So I'm going back to the brand, remove everything that we have written, and replace find with aggregate. Aggregate should be building the aggregation pipeline. And what we pass is an array of stages. The first stage that we want to target is filtering all the meals and getting the meal that we want. So the first stage should be match. And I need to match a document that has underscore ID equal the meal ID. Now, when you try to find this document and I test, I couldn't get partner names. I said math. It's match. Okay. Now I still get nothing, and I know that this meal ID does exist. And apparently, they did not create a wrapper for the IDs. So it's just like small technicality. You Google it and you find it out. So I'm going to use mongoose.types.object ID and create a correct object ID. Now when I test, mongoose is not defined. Let's define mongoose. And class constructor object ID cannot be invoked without a new. The API keeps changing, so let's fulfill these requirements. Update brand by ID. Okay, here it is. Nope. Get brand by ID. Okay. So let's call new in front of it. Now, yes, I did get my only meal. If there were other meals, they were filtered out. Now, the next step that we could do here is to spread all the ingredients, right? So let's spread the ingredients and filter out by ingredient. So we get rid of all the other data. Another stage is by spreading. Unwind ingredients. Let's test the results. Now I have za'atar with the first ingredient, and za'atar with the second ingredient, and za'atar with the third ingredient. I unwinded by the ingredient. So I have a document with one ingredient, document with one ingredient at a time. Now I could filter out all the other documents and filter them out by the ingredient ID that I have. Let's do that and get rid of all of these. And the code would be just filtering out ingredient dot underscore ID should match the ingredient ID that I have. Now I will have only the data with a single ingredient that match the ingredient that I want. Let's test. Now, yes, I have only one document, ingredients, the single ingredient that I targeted by ID. That's perfect. And now I have all the brands within. Now next is filtering out by brands. Let's spread all the brands. So spread ingredients dot brands. Spread out this array. Don't know why I closed the test file. Test brands. Test brands. Test. Now I have a document with brand A, document with brand B, and a document with brand C. Let's get rid of all the documents that don't match the brand. And that would be another match. A. Ingredients dot brands dot underscore ID should match my brand. Let's test. Yes, now I have a single document that have the brand that I targeted. So I've filtered by meal and then unwinded and filtered by ingredient. Here it is. And then I unwinded and filtered by brand. Now, if I want this object, what should we do at the end? Projection. We don't want all this data from MongoDB. MongoDB should only send me this data. So let's add projection. I would add project. So let's create a property. Let's call it brand. And the brand would be data from ingredients.brand. Give me this data and put it in here inside the brand. Now, if I test my route, I only get the brand. Still seeing here underscore ID. Underscore ID is always going to be sent, remember, just like regular MongoDB. So as a condition of my projection, I would say, hey, I don't want the underscore ID of the document. I'm only needing the brand. Filter out. Now I just received the brand that I needed without any extra data. And this query is really, really fast. The reason is we matched first. So I selected a single document. And now this processing is pretty simple. And it's done at the database server until the database server got this single brand for me and send it back. So you could play and start converting all kinds of queries to use the aggregation pipeline. So let's play a little more and do some work with the meals, for example. Let's open the meals, test meals. The first query sending me all the meals. What if I want to do some same request using aggregates and add some sort of pagination, for example? Let's do that. It will be fun. So instead of find and do nothing and then hide, stuff like that, let's replace that line with some aggregation work. So const results equal weight meal dot aggregate. Yes? Your voice is not coming through. Your voice is not coming through. Yes?
Professor, I want to see the previous API and previous API would get brands by ID.
Oh. Sure. Yes? Any questions?
Yeah, not here. So I would like to see the previous code. I mean, the previous without the aggregation. Since you did not share yesterday the code base, so therefore.
There was the old code. Although I was trying to find the meal and ingredient and then try to projection using this $sign, and that sent me a whole bunch of data that I don't need. So we realized that the best thing is to replace the find with an aggregation process to get the piece of data that we want. Okay?
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, now we cannot go back to the code, so we have to leave it this. I don't think I have redo. Oh, I do. So what's the redo shortcut? This one and shift. Ah, I have redo.
Yeah.
Okay. Close.
My luck.
All right. Let's work on doing some pagination to find all the meals and the data that we want from the meals. Okay. Technically, since I want all the meals, I don't need to do anything other than projection. So let's add projection stage. I have to define stage here. And I say, maybe hide, oh, I need the ID. So maybe just hide pictures. So pictures is 0. And probably ingredients also 0. I don't need them. That would be, we'll send all the meals. Let's test that. Yes, I did get, but I only have one meal. So let's create another one. Yeah, that will send me both meals. Sounds good. How about I want to paginate? So let's create a lot of meals. 3 and 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How much time do you have, guys? 10. Okay, that's enough. I have now 10 meals that we would like to display in pagination. So first of all, I need the page size and define the current page. So usually people are going to pass the page as a query parameter. So they would say, hey, give me page 1, give me page 4, okay? And if they did not pass the page, you should assume that the page is 1. Send them to the first page. Okay, so let's define these constants. So I'm gonna say const page is either the request query dot page. If that exists, then use it. Otherwise, set the page to 1. This is an kind of like an if statement in one line. If this exists, then return this value. This colon means otherwise, return this value. You could always replace it with an if statement, but I guess this is a shortcut. Another shortcut for this is to say this and. So if this exists, no, never mind. Let's not be too smart. Let's just be a little bit smart. We need the page. So this is the page number.
It is the pipe symbol, maybe, Professor.
Sorry. No, this is an if
The pipe
statement.
symbol, pipe.
Oh, just using the pipe, that would be smarter, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would work as well. So if page does exist, then use it. Otherwise, use one. That will also do it. And in case page didn't exist, this might throw an error. So I'm going to add a question mark here. Okay, the next thing is let's define the page size. And let's say we want to display 2 results at a time. Now that I have my constants, I can add them to my aggregation pipeline. So I can say, hey, I want to skip. Now the value of skip is a number. How many rows do you want to skip? We usually skip page size times page number minus 1. So page size times page number minus 1. So for the first page, we multiply by 0 and we skip nothing. For the second page, we skip by 2 and then we get the results. So that's good. The next stage would be always limiting the results. So I'm going to add a limit stage and I'm going to limit by the page size. That's this. Now I'm not sending any page in here. I got only 2 results, the first and the second. If I'm going to add page 2, 10, we get the 3 and 4. If I get the page as sending the 4, I get 7 and 8. So exactly what I'm expecting to send the results in pages based on the page size that I requested. So that's an example of also using the aggregation pipeline. You can also add skip and limit to the original find query. That will also be okay and fine. So don't be afraid of using the aggregation pipeline. They are very powerful tool. Yeah, don't have any more comments. Any questions? All right.
Professor?
Yes.
So we use query and projection to find the specific document by ID and stuff, and then using aggregation and the project skip and limit, we can show how in the pages, or I like how I say. So aggregations are using like have to show the
Aggregation
data.
is processing the data. You want to read some data and process it some way. For example, I needed the only piece of brand from the document that has all ingredients and stuff. We tried a lot to do some projection in the regular query. That did not work because I'm trying to filter out some data that's second level array. That was pretty hard to do. Maybe there is a way, we don't know, but it was pretty complicated outside of our current consciousness. So what we did is we used the aggregation pipeline to process this data piece by piece in order to get this piece of information of a brand and send it out. And that was good. Now here also, I replaced a regular query with just get everything and then projection by pictures. I added more pieces to it. Basically, we just did the projection similar to this one, but I added a little bit more pieces to it in order to send the results in chunks. Let's say you have 1 million meal. You never should have a find query that has an empty query. Basically, you're sending all your data in the database back. That's very concerning, right? Especially if you have hundreds and thousands of meals. So the technique here is to send the results in chunks. You send the first 10, the second 10, the third 10, based on the user request. And always send the first chunk at the beginning. If they specify the page, use the specified page. Otherwise, consider that the default page is 1 and send them the first chunk of results. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Any questions?
Professor,
Try to practice with some aggregation this afternoon. Yes.
in the exam, is it optional to use aggregate? Can we use methods we studied yesterday?
You use anything that's you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with aggregation, do it. If you're using a regular query, do it. Just do the job.
Thank you.
Regardless of what kind of preferable method you want to use.
Thank you.
You're welcome.